hate it because I want to know all the facts before I make a call and before I start coming for someone. But the fact that he's taken him off in that situation, having played him, he's young, you know, he's 22, people will argue he's a man, he's not, he's just trying to establish himself. He's done nothing in that game to try and hurt Tottenham. He's had a bad moment, he slipped, and then that's a really bad moment, that's a technical fault. But to just rip him off in this situation, not even acknowledge the guy, every single one of Tottenham's players who were feeling the pain for him, you could see it, and they just didn't know what to do, they just didn't know how to play it. Like, how is that good for him?
He's 22, he's from the Czech Republic, he's been at Tottenham for a year. Yes, he's getting paid Premier League, Champions League wages. He's a young boy learning his trade still. He's only 22, as we keep saying. We all understand what happened. We all understand what happened in the game. We all understand the mistakes he's made. But as you said, it wasn't about that. It was about being a figure, being somebody to say, you know what, don't worry about it. It was just a small thing he needed to do, the manager, just to show that I've got no problem with the sending off. I've got no problem with the substitution either. Vicario should have played. I've got no problem with him bringing him off. He's trying to save him, but then go over and make him and say to him, don't worry, I'm sorry, it takes 5 seconds. Don't worry about it. I'm with you. We'll deal with it later. And move forward. The optics looked terrible. That was the only thing we thought about at half-time. You're not doing anything to help that kid's career at all.
Is that decision symptomatic of what Spurs fans have been frustrated in the decisions that he is making, playing players not necessarily in their preferred positions or the right positions, making calls like this? It feels like there's not much thought process involved.
Chaos has ensued since he's come in. You know, it's been the performances, they've really struggled. I think Fulham, they should have been out of sight. They ended up losing 2-1, doesn't look too bad on the eye. Crystal Palace, they're 1-0 up. They got away with a real tight call of an offside. Van der Ven goes off. It just seems to be happening all season. And then, you know, regardless of the goals that were scored, like, I think Atletico actually dropped their level to an extent. Yeah. I think Simeone was almost trying to whip the crowd up and remind them that they're there to perform too. It was just absolute. You just couldn't work out even. The fact that he's not owned the changes beforehand, you know, he's had 5 days before the game. You just don't know where you stand with this Tottenham team, and things just keep happening that you never thought would happen. They're piling on top of each other.
Yeah, I don't know about the ins and outs of Tottenham at the moment. I don't know how this manager is perceived or not. All we can see is what goes on the pitch, and it looks very chaotic. His choice of players, his changes are all that he seems to change it round a lot. He doesn't stick to a 4-4-2. Playing the best players in the best positions and being strong, and in times of trouble we get back, we get condensed, we defend and we wait and we counter-attack. There's no plan. It just seems to be, I'm going to put 11 players on the pitch, and if it's not going to go right, I'm going to put 3 more on and take 3 off. And that's what it looked like tonight. As I mentioned before the game, Paulinho on loan, Xavi Simons a lot of money, Solanke who scored against Crystal Palace, who comes on again and scores again today. So why aren't they starting? Why isn't Paulinho sitting in the middle of the park today and not moving, just shutting stuff down? But he mustn't fancy him, or whether he doesn't know enough of the players, knowledge of the players, and know what their best positions are. As I said, I don't know. I'm not privy to what goes on behind the scenes at Tottenham, but I'm a bit like Joe. When I look at them now, it's like a rudderless ship. I don't know who's the chief exec. I don't know who's the sporting director, if they have one. I just know they catapulted this Igor Tudor in to try and stop the rot, and it's not happening at all.
I just want to take you back, Joe, for a second on the 17 minutes that he was on the pitch, Kinsky's on the pitch, and he's now come off, and obviously it's going to be devastating for him. Who consoles him, and how do you build him back up?
Oh, that's like I say, it is a thing with goalkeeping, and yeah, you have got to accept that you're going to have nights like that. Everyone has them. You could scroll through Manuel Neuer's career, Peter Schmeichel's career, Gigi Buffon, and they're rightfully at that top of the list of being the greatest goalkeepers to ever play the game. But they've had moments. You can have really bad games, but it's just everything that's gone on top of it and not being looked after. He'll feel so unwelcome in that Tottenham. He'll certainly feel unwelcome as far as the management are involved. I know they've got a really good goalkeeper coach there who's got a big heart. You need humans. You've got to be treated like a human just for a little bit. I understand the situation. I understand the troubles the club are in, but you need to have a human side. Just in life in general. And look at him. He knows. He's taking those deep breaths. He knows. He sees it.
That's what he needs. This is the substitution. This is what he needs. you know, this is what he thinks. I don't want to get substituted.
No.
Just leave me. Let me make a save. Let me get back into the game. And there was one person, I think it was Alan Joe said, who's like the player liaison, the team manager, who consoled him afterwards. But it should have been someone higher up than him. I mean, I know he's one of the lads, but it should have been a member of staff to really console him. That was the only thing that disappointed me.
We saw some of the players rallying around him after one or two of the goals, and then obviously when he went off. Does this kind of situation have the potential to divide a dressing room as well and separate the players even more so from the manager?
This needs getting a serious grip of. And that can be owned. Look, stuff happens, madness happens in football all the time, Mac. That was mad. Maybe he didn't handle it how he should have handled it, any of them. You know, he's not played well, the manager could have consoled him. All can be sorted out. You can just stand in front of each other, honest conversations, bit of honesty down the camera, get that camaraderie. That's the team. I saw the whole bench, 5 or 6 of the lads, hearts dropped for him. Because ultimately, that's Paulinho. They're not saying you shouldn't have come off, mate. They're saying, don't worry, we're here for you. Like I say, human side of things. And that can get you through in difficult times. But if you're not willing to show it, that's when it starts to divide.
That is the loneliest position on the pitch. You know, you miss a chance, no problem. You get more. You know, I played in midfield. I had 100 mistakes during the game, but you know what? If it doesn't mean they're going to concede. The poor goalie makes a slip first, back of the net, then another one back of the net, and that's the problem. That's why it's such a lonely sport and a lonely position in this. And that's why you feel for them. We've all had goalkeepers who make mistakes and they are distraught in the dressing room because they take it really, really personally. And you say, don't worry about it. The centre forward missed a chance. It's his fault. But the goalkeepers take it personally because they're a special breed. They train with them. You know, they train, they warm up together. They're very, very close. So you feel for them whenever he has a night like this, especially because he's inexperienced. If he was Manuel Neuer, you'd probably just go, well, he'll be able to handle it because he's had good times. But he's a 22-year-old just making his debut. Devastating for him.
You saw there as Aldanzo, Pedro Porro. Pedro actually is one of the players who he can be quite feisty and he can wear his heart on his sleeve, but he is one of those players that actually is giving heart, and perhaps that Spurs players are looking at and saying, well, at least we're seeing some fight from him.
Like I say, I said it against Palace. I don't see people down in tools. I just see top players who just look totally lost. They've lost their confidence, Macca. They're not really working in unison. The direction isn't quite there. And that's when stuff like this starts to happen. You see the likes of Van der Ven slipping. Look, I know the pitch would have been difficult tonight, and I absolutely stand on this. The boys would have had the right footwear on. They would. But you didn't see the Atletico players slipping. It's just one of those things at the moment. They're just very unsure of how they're playing, how they're positioning themselves, and it's just snowballing.
Yeah, you can't necessarily fault their attitude tonight.
No.
They didn't down tools tonight. The second half, they competed and they worked hard and they got back into the game. You know, the second half was 1-1, wasn't it? It was 4-1 and then 1-1. So you can't say they actually down tools. It's just that when things start to go wrong, they haven't got a leader to say, right, that's enough for 10 minutes. We'll just pump it up there and we'll get organised. And that's the only thing that worries me, because everything from now to the end of the season is going to be tough. They've still got injuries. They've got more injuries next week. It's going to be hard work. And you need somebody just to galvanise them and make them hard to beat.
Yeah. Let's continue with the analysis and see what happened next. So 4-0, this is after Vicario came on. He actually makes quite a good save there.
Yes, and credit to Vicario, you know, he's been dropped tonight, and then he's been asked to go on, out you go, lad, and sort that out for me. And he's
that's just bad luck, Joe, isn't it? Unfortunately, isn't it?
Yeah. But you know, it's too easy for a ball whipped in, and like we say, that's 4-0 in a stadium like this, baying for blood. And then after that, they managed to pull it together a little bit, and this is a really good goal actually by Pedro Porro.
They were galvanised, Macca, at this point in the game.
Yes, they were. They responded really well. I mean, if you analyse the goals singularly, you know, it was a slip, it was a mistake, it was 2 slips, it was a mistake. You can almost